here is there any age of accountability? I've heard some claim that the age of accountability is 8. Is that biblical? Surely babies and young children can't be held accountable, I think. What is your take on
Okay.
this?
Now this is very important thing. I'm going to give you the answer first. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There is no specific age of accountability.
So that is something I wanted to touch on. The person who is asking the question, I said it so many times on all my comments that sometimes, I wouldn't be surprised if she heard it even from me, because the amount of times I said this over the internet is countless. And sometimes I did wonder whether, because obviously we're going to be held accountable for spreading false information, but I don't think this is actually a false information, because I very often would say that the age of accountability is 8, more or less. Of course, we are not robots. God is very, very righteous, and he's very judge, so he knows what he's doing. That's the most important thing to know. So in that respect, if Dr. Lorraine Day would say it doesn't matter, I would agree, but I think she means in a different way. She's gonna say that it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, everybody's gonna be saved, which is a heresy. What do I have to say to that? I very often, since more or less 3-4 years, whenever there is talk about this, and there's a lot of talk about this, I give comments about this. That yes, there is an age of accountability, which obviously even common sense will tell you that there is. And the reason I say it's 8, because yes, children under a certain age, whether they are from believing parents or from the greatest Satanists out there, under a certain age they're covered. We mustn't forget that it's written in the Bible that I knew you before you were in your mother's womb. So every child that is born is a God's creation, and until a certain time, they are covered. They're covered by that. They are. Yes, we are all born sinners, but like a 1-year-old baby, or like Dr. Lorraine says, that even children as young as 2 or 7, they do the wrong things and they know they're doing this. Of course, we know the terrible 2s, we know the 3-year-old children, 5-year-old children, they will lie, but they are covered. They're covered. They're obviously small, and for the other Christians out there that obviously do believe in hell, and I think this is obviously right. But there's other Christians that say that, oh, well, I don't know. I mean, the children, they were 5 and they died, but the parents were unbelieving. I'm like, what are you even talking about? I mean, are you totally crazy? It's totally abominable. A total abomination when they talk like this, the Christians, where they say like, oh, well, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if those children were in hell. I mean, I don't even want to start myself on people like that. I mean, I don't even want to. I mean, if I would have somebody like this in front of my face, I don't know what I would do to them. To be honest, I think this is one of the worst things you can say. And even people like Kent Howind was mocking and saying things like, "Well, they're 2 years old," because somebody was asking him like, again, the same question, age of accountability. So it's a very, very, a lot of people ask about this. Anyway, he said that, well, I mean, yes, I know. Yeah, okay, basically, it was a lady. She said like, oh, this little boy, he was 2 and he died. And I was just wondering where does a child like this goes to? Which is actually a stupid question, to be honest, because obviously it goes to heaven. But anyway, this was a lovely lady and she was asking, it happened to friends of friends, and yeah, Kent Hovind said like, oh well, I don't know, uh, because to be honest, it was even worse than that. Now I'm talking, I remember even more. Actually, that lady, she said that that family, the child that died, they had a dream, they had a vision, and don't get me wrong, I'm not here on false dreams and visions. I'm not the kind of person, but it sounded very good, very credible, because I myself had dreams and visions, and I know that they are of God. Of course, some are of Satan. Most of them are of Satan, but yeah. But basically, yeah. So that lady sounded really humble, very good, and Kent Howitt totally went off the rails there. He just was mocking this, and then he said, "Oh well, I mean, you know how many 2-year-olds lie and cheat and this and that. So, okay, if you believe he's in hell, well, good for them, I'm just thinking, you piece of trash, What are you saying there? Unbelievable." So, but again, going back here, yeah. And so basically, there's tons of Christians like that who just, it's just pure disgust, the way they talk. The way they talk, the way they it's almost like, it's like those Christians that they're happy that even people go to hell. These are disgusting people. These are really disgusting people. But anyway, this is here. I just wanted to touch on what Dr. Lorraine is saying here, which is again totally off.
What they say is because they think that people who aren't saved in this life will, when they are raised to the second resurrection, they will be thrown in hell if they're past the age of accountability. Age of accountability means if your parents die or if you die, say at 7 years old, then you are not accountable for your actions. The whole point is God's going to save everybody. God's going to
So
save
that's wrong.
news.
That's not gonna save that. That is not even biblical. The lady is amazing, but she's totally off on that. And obviously, with the devil, as usual, expect the unexpected. She does a lot of good, and so the devil singled her out, and he deceived her in that. Now, okay, the age of accountability. I very often say 8. Why did I say? I mean, I have a reason why, and I don't remember exactly anymore. Many people will say this is not to be found in the Bible. Maybe it's not, but how do I say this? We know common sense tells us that there is an age of accountability. And for example, like you have those Christian or non-Christian parents, especially non-Christians, yeah, who on, let's say, on the average playground, you see them suppressing their little 3-year-olds. The child wants to play, running around like a little drunk rabbit. He just wants to play, and the parents is constantly around the child, and is just suppressing the child. And also is every 5 seconds, the child has to say sorry to another child, because those funny parents, they basically they behave like that. They treat their children like that. They suppress their little ones. But then a 13-year-old, they treat them like silly kids. And so many times I was commenting, or I got myself into some comments with other people where they were saying like, yeah, I mean, my 15-year-olds, they're still kids, and they're 16-year-olds and they're young, they're still kids. I'm like, are you stupid or what? I mean, you crazy? For goodness sake, I mean, 16-year-olds, they can get married, they can kill somebody, they can be married, and they can cheat on their spouse. I mean, weren't girls, as even in Hebrew customs, as young as 13, they would get married? That was not long ago, 200 years ago. And that was like this over the millennia. That is only the last 100 years that everything is really going crazy, speedy, fast, and obviously the devil is at its best. Every decade it's getting worse and worse. The things that were once normal are becoming not normal. It's only happening now. But before 14, 15-year-old, there were women. In fact, even today, according to Latin customs, a 15-year-old is considered woman. They have those quinceañeras parties where she's considered officially a woman at 15 years of age. And I'm just thinking, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy what the devil has done to the people. So, of course, there's an age of accountability. And I think, I remember the comments now, sometimes people talk about evangelism or about that we don't have enough Christian schools, or that they should be free, or that churches should open the church during the week for we should have our schools there, especially in primary school age. And they should be free. Yeah, I was talking about this, like why the churches are open, why Christians have not done anything 50 years ago about this, and so on. And so we would have these comments, and then some parents will say, oh, well, no, then you would need a school until they're 18, until they're adults. I'm like, well, to be honest, no, not really. It's the primary school age until 11, because how many parents have, well, not so much now, or even the last 2 years, but before, we had these big cases of the social workers taking children away from Christians or non-Christian parents, but especially Christians, and for stupid things. And a small child, a 3-year-old or 5-year-old, or even 6 or 7, I mean, I think a 3-year-old child, I mean, ideally you should keep them at home. But yeah, anything can happen. And I think these are small children, and they can be traumatized. So why are we not protecting our children? Why are we not having our schools in the churches? That's what I was, let's say, writing about, like maybe 3 years ago, 4, commenting, and people would be like, yeah, because then I would say, because by the age they're 11 already, that's it, the job is done. They can go into the world, because the secondary school starts from 11 till 16. They can already fight the fight at that age. And even if something happens, they get taken away because of parents' religious views or whatever, at least they don't get traumatized. They're 11, 12, 13. They're already semi-adults. But it's the primary school age. And then when I would tell them that, the parents will go off, Christians, you will really see the devils coming, the demons coming through. And they'll be like, oh no, they're still children at 15, at 16. And I just basically couldn't believe what I heard there, what I saw there. So, sorry, I'm losing myself here a bit in my conversation. What is my point in all of this? Well, no, they're definitely not children. I mean, even a girl at 12, 13, she gets her period. So it's like she can be already a child. So how can a child bear a child? Logically, that's not even possible. Now, I'm not advocating for that, but I'm just stating facts. And God does not equip the body before he equips the mind. So again, I'm really going here off the subject, but there is this son who was 18, and he was marrying a girl who was 16. That happened only 2 years ago. Son of a pastor, and the pastor's mother she had to make a video because so many Christian women were really going at her. Well, actually, not so many Christians, actually. It was non-Christians. They were saying like, oh, he's so young to get married. And she would say, well, what do you mean young? So he's too young to have a wife at 18, but he's not too young to have a girlfriend and fornicate with her at that age. So you see how basically how wicked and deluded and vile and disgusting the minds of people are. But again, I really went off the subject here. Okay, the age of accountability, yes, it does matter, because I believe that parents have a time to raise the children in the Lord. It says in the Bible that if you raise a child in the Lord, when he grows up, he or she will not depart from it. So, and the Bible doesn't lie. That means if they do depart from it, that means the parents have not done a good job. Now, your children can have their phases when they're young teenagers, but they should not depart from this, really. But what I'm meaning to say here is that, yes, I believe personally, the age 7, I think, is a age where childhood innocence is lost. Yes, at 8, 9, my son is 9.5. He's still innocent. He still plays with his plushies. He's still acting like a child. But I believe it's the age 8. I said more or less, yes. I'm not 100% sure on it. is the age of accountability, because as I said, is I have a reason why to say this, and it happened. I came across something, and it was a few years ago, so I forgot what it was, but there's a couple of things also that confirms my belief. One is that there was a YouTube channel where they would talk about the end times. It was like a cartoon channel, and they would say that children will go to basically slaughter with the Christian parents, and under the age of 8, they would basically go to the slaughter. They will be killed in the name of Jesus Christ. That's in end times. But above the age of 8, that means 8 and above, they will have the option by the state to go under the wings of the state, and many children will turn against the parents. So basically, if the parents are going to have the option to either, I don't know, maybe accept the Antichrist or whatever and not be killed, they will say no. So they will go and be killed, and children will go as well. They will not be asked when they're 6 or 7, but when they're 8, they will be asked. And so you see, so this sort of things, they confirm certain things that, I mean, yes, everything has to be in the Bible, but it's like you will not find in the Bible that do not smoke cigarettes because it's a sin, but we know it's a sin because it's addiction. Or it's like your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Everybody knows that you can steal with the left hand, so everybody knows that this is talking here about sexual immorality, but it doesn't say explicitly, but everybody knows certain things. So it's like, I think only a reprobate mind will just ask or show me that in the Bible, where does it say that 8-year-old children are above the age of accountability, or show me in the Bible that I cannot masturbate, or show me in the Bible I cannot smoke. Where does it say? I mean, you're just a reprobate if you ask like that. So again, another thing, ISIS, the execution age is age as well. Sorry, age 8. I meant, sorry, I got distracted here. So ISIS, basically, they, as we know what happened in Syria, I even saw pictures of 6-year-old girl beheaded, but they kill even pregnant women, of course. They slaughter anything that comes under their hands, but the execution age, by law, it's 8. So again, there is something in the number 8. So I believe that this could very well be the age of accountability, and it is what it is. Why is it important? Because parents have to be held accountable and have to be responsible for their children. Yes, time flies, everything goes fast. We have to teach them the right ways. We have to explain to them what it is all about. The gospel, the good news, and how it is to be saved. What it is all about. We have to it's not only the explaining, it's praying for them, is also being the example and so on, so that they soak everything in. What else did I wanted to say about this? Yeah, because for example, if let's say a child at age 10 or 9 or 13, they die, I mean, people think, oh, they were just kids, so of course they're safe. But like, of course, if you don't want to even talk about this when you come across and somebody and their child died, but then, you know, maybe these are the people that ask, maybe these are the friends of people that lost maybe a young son or daughter at that age, because they maybe want to know, because they never thought about this before. Because a right sound mind will tell you that, well, they are 10, they're 11, 12, so they must be accountable. They're not covered anymore at that age. Yes, I mean, a 6-year-old can be rotten, but they're covered. They're under the age of accountability, so they go to heaven regardless. But there is this age of accountability, and I think the reason maybe so many people ask about this, well, I don't know if this has always been like that, is because this is a valid question, and this only tells us that yeah, we do have to spend time with our children. We have to prepare them, because we have to do the good job, because after a certain time they're standing there by themselves. If the worst would happen, obviously children of born again Christians, they're blessed until whatever is it, the 4th or the 7th generations and so on. And but okay, I mean, they still have to get saved. They have to give their life to Jesus by themselves. As I said, maybe one 8-year-old could be more mature than another one. So as I said before, I always say more or less. I believe it is the age 8, but I mean, I don't know 100%. It's definitely not 13. I know in Hebrew customs, the boys at age 13, they enter into manhood already at that age. So again, I mean, if people think that age of accountability is 13, that is crazy, because girls at age of 12, they used to get married not long ago, and they already get their period. So and yet there was this case of James Bulger murderers. There were 9 or 10-year-olds. They murdered him sadistically. So at that age, the little boy was 3. So they knew what they were doing. I believe that the soul doesn't have an age. It's either accountable or it's not. But anyway, what Dr. Lorraine Day is talking here is, well, let's hear it.
Of course, but everybody's going to have to reap what they sow. And you can't tell me that 7-year-olds have not done things that were bad that they know are bad. Okay, they know. But so it doesn't matter what the babies, of course, don't know. But there is even when they're 2 years old, they know some things they're not supposed to do. But the point, it is unessential. This is an unessential issue, because God is going to save everybody. God knows the heart of everybody. Everybody's going to reap what they sow, and then God's going to save everybody.
Dr. Lorraine Day very often says that we're gonna reap what we sow, but that is obvious. That is obvious. That is, even the unbelievers know that, the atheists know that. You reap what you sow. Yes, of course. I mean, a child at 7, if he puts, maybe not at 7, but at 3, if he puts his finger into a fire, you tell him no, well, he's gonna have the consequence of that. He's gonna have a burned finger and the pain of that. Yes. If a 7-year-old goes somewhere where the father tells him not to and he breaks his leg, then yeah, he's going to have the consequence of that. But we're not talking here about salvation, are we? It's just consequences of our wrongdoings.
Save everybody. Otherwise, if Satan can win God's children away from God and God doesn't know how to win them back, then Satan's stronger than God.
That is absolute bullshit. And Dr. Lorraine Dale is full of that. Sorry, I'm not saying like, yeah, basically what she's saying is total crap. I can't really listen to that. It's like she's trying to be God. It's like she's basically, well, no, God cannot do like this. God cannot be weaker than Satan. Well, Satan already lost. He's a defeated foe. But with God, there is an order. Everything has to happen according to his rules. And God knows everything. God knows what he's doing. She often talks about this. She talks about this, that, oh yeah, well, if most of the people are gonna go to hell, no, that it's just like, I don't know. It's like this doesn't fit really in her mind, and she has all her teachings around that something doesn't really go well with her thinking that everybody must be safe, because otherwise she can't handle that. Well, I mean, God created hell. God knows what he's doing. And it is not our business. Our business is to not to worry about this. Our business is to worry about, tell the people that God leads us to, tell them about Jesus Christ and how to be saved. And yes, that is not easy, by the way. Well, it's not that difficult either. Depends on personal, whatever, how people are, but it's maybe easier for some to talk to anybody than others. But God has given us different talents, and that's what God requires from us. Not to have the blood of our loved ones, our friends on our hands. So you have to say what you have to say. And however you say this, well, I mean, you can grow in your maturity as a Christian, or you use your talents. I'm personally quite direct, maybe a bit too rough. Some other person might be different, but then God knows whom to use how. So that is what God calls us to do. God doesn't tell us that if your friends are not saved, then you're not saved. If you don't make sure that everybody in the radius of 5 miles around you is not saved, then you forget about heaven. No, that's not how it works. I don't know. It's very, very strange how she sees those things. Like everybody is going to be saved at the end of the day. It's just crazy.
And that's not going to happen. Satan is a created being. He can't do anything that God doesn't allow. So the good news is God's going to save everybody. And unfortunately, many Christians hate that because I stayed in the church and I'm...
No. Many Christians hate that. Well, what does she know what many Christians hate or not hate? Yes, Satan is a created being, and he cannot do anything without God allowing it, of course, but we give him that legal right. People die, people get sick because they give Satan legal rights to themselves, their bloodline, their offsprings, and so on. How that works, again, go to Derek Prince's channel. He explains very well, of course, because the reason I'm saying this is not to sound funny here. I'm not besotted with Derek Prince, but it's because many Christians read the Bible 20, 50 years and they still don't know those things. Satan seeks whom he may devour every day. He looks where he can pull the plug, and in order to do that, he has to have got permission, and he knows that. And so, if you run out of blessings, or if basically your time is up, then Satan knows that, and he only cares, well, he wants to destroy everybody, but he rather destroys the so-called good person than the bad one, because, well, I say so-called because there is nobody good, we know that already. But he rather destroys the, you know what I mean. It's like whenever we hear of some cyclist in London dying, it's usually the very, very nice people, kind souls, and people don't talk about them like that just because they died, because usually people talk of the dead good anyway. But no, you can really hear that these people were really shining, they were kind souls, and usually Satan is after those ones, to destroy those. He doesn't care about the mean boss at work, because he knows that this person works indirectly for him. Yeah, eventually he's going to claim his soul if that person doesn't come to Christ, repents, but he doesn't care so much to destroy that person. He rather goes after the ones he especially hates. And of course, I mean, his priority list are the Jews and the Christians and innocent children and so on. We know that. And the beautiful people as well. Satan hates to destroy beauty. I mean, we know that usually the girls that are extremely beautiful, they are the ones that get raped or killed. So we know Satan's favorings. So that's how he kills. And in order to do that, he has to have legal rights. And God tells us how we are to grow old, and how when we walk with him, we will only die of old age or martyrdom. So Satan cannot touch you if he doesn't have legal rights. So he has to have legal rights to destroy you in the flesh. I'm not talking about the soul here. Yeah, that's another subject. And so then when he thinks he does have, he has to present the case before God. And God, if Satan has enough legal rights, God has to approve. And the reason I'm saying has to is not like God has to do something. God is God. But the reason I'm saying has to, because God is holy and righteous, and he cannot go against his holy nature and pure and perfect righteousness, and Satan knows that. And that's how he can do whatever he can with God's permission. That's how it works. It's not because they have a deal together. No, it doesn't work like that. So she doesn't explain these things very well. And all she goes on about, on and on and on, is how what's the point if Satan claims all the creation is God very weak? Well, I think she's stepping on dangerous grounds here. Oh, I mean, what is she talking about? You know, God doesn't talk about the whole Bible. What's all about is Jesus warns about hell. He talks a lot about Satan. He talks about the good news. The good news is about claiming him. If you claim him, you have eternal life. If you don't, it's not there for you. So it doesn't make sense for her to say, well, everybody eventually is going to be saved. You're just not going to go on the first plane up. You're going to go on the second or third one up. Eventually you will. Then what's the sense? What's the point of all this here? She just doesn't make any sense at all. Yes, eventually, we don't know what's going to happen eventually after the white throne judgment. First, we're going to have the 1,000 years of reign of Jesus Christ here on earth. And after that, the white throne judgment. And after that, we don't know. I don't know myself. But we have to trust God. God knows what He's doing. But to tell people around that, well, don't worry. I mean, yes, you're going to reap what you sow, but Bible is not about you're going to reap what you sow. Yes, it's written in the Bible, but not everywhere. And it's like, we know already that. It's common sense tells you you're going to reap what you sow. Now it's 2:30 in the morning and I'm still not asleep. I know I'm not going to wake up tomorrow at 8 o'clock fresh. I know that I'm going to reap what I've sown because I'm going to bed late. I know. So this is common sense, and she's talking about this too much. She's putting emphasis on that rather than about warning people about hell and how to get saved. And then another thing she's saying, that Christians are like she almost represents Christians in a vicious way. Like, we're happy that, oh well, you better get saved, otherwise you're gonna go to hell. No, that's not what Christianity is all about. We do what we can. The rest is in God's hand. We sow the seed. Whether that seed grows, it depends if it gets light. And that's how it works, basically.
And I'm going to be saved, and you mean this person is going to be saved too? Yeah, eventually. We're all going to be saved. And that's what I discussed not too long ago. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. Those who think they're so good and that they've been in the church all the time, they're going to be last because
Well,
they don't have humility.
that might
Those
be.
people who
That might
recognize
be.
their need for Jesus
I don't
Christ
disagree with that.
and have not been in the church, like the prodigal son who comes home and says, I have sinned against you, Father. Take me in as a servant. The father runs out to meet him.
Yes, of course. But these are people that have repented. What about those ones that don't repent? There's people that don't repent. What about the synagogue of Satan? What about the criminals out there? I mean, I'm not saying that criminals don't repent. Yes, they do. What I mean is, like, the people that rule the world, even, they know what they're doing. They know the Bible very well. They know Jesus, but they will never accept him because they hate him. The children of Satan. Again, this is another thing in the Bible. You're a child of God or you're a child of the devil. So this is really a bit off what Dr. Lorraine is saying here. And I'd never really heard her in sort of a conversation with Christians. Never really. I don't know. I'm a bit surprised. She, as I said, I don't have too much time looking into that, but I'm surprised she actually is not on internet there and discussing her beliefs, like with other people. She is just basically, I don't know, always in her little group of those people that are just happy to listen to her without any challenging. I mean, I'm not saying so much as in debate, because I believe the word of God is not for debate. We should not debate, but like having conversation. So I don't see much of that. I mean, I know she claims she's not a Seventh-day Adventist, but her teachings are very much like that.
And so that they will be first, and the others will be second. But notice it says the last shall be first, the first shall be last, but it doesn't say it leaves anybody out.
That's right. That's right.
You see?
And that's
So,
what,
so there's
that's
no
the
age of
problem.
accountability.
That's why we added Christian to there, because our beliefs have been so indoctrinated because we think that our church is teaching us the right doctrine. In reality, the churches have been infiltrated as well, and they're looking at the translation that, and not looking at what happened before the translation occurred.
What God actually inspired.
That's right. Man corrupted. Okay, so Tony asks, what type of doctrine is that Dr. Day's about everything going to heaven and God will have everybody saved? It's in the Bible.
Yeah, but I don't say everybody's going to heaven. I don't.
That's right.
As I said, heaven is a temporary place. God will bring His headquarters down to earth at the judgment, and the righteous who have been in heaven with Him during the millennium will come down to earth. And God, all of this rest of it will take place on earth. People will reap what they've sown. Then God will recreate the earth, and we will spend eternity on the recreated earth, not in heaven. So. When people say,
I don't know about
Dr. Day
eternity. It says
everybody's going to
1,000
heaven. No,
years.
I don't. I say everybody's going to be saved eventually after they reap what they sow, but not everybody's going to be in heaven. So the heaven is a temporary place. If you're reading your Bible or if you're reading my books, you will know that. And I give you all the evidence from the Bible. So
here's a good one for studying the Bible, who wrote the Bible.
Right. So the thing is, the good news is that God's going to save everybody because He's the ultimate, wonderful, loving parent.
No. Well, loving parent. You cannot compare God to a parent. God established parents here on earth, mother and father, but don't compare God to a parent. Sometimes you can compare it, but I think Dr. Lorraine is doing this too much. Oh, my parent would not kill me. Oh, my parent would not hate me or would not be happy. Well, how many parents actually kill their own children? How many children have shot their parents in their sleep? How many parents rape their children? Incest, pedophilia in families, well, satanic circles, but yeah, all this goes on. You cannot do that. What are you doing there? You cannot do that. You cannot, just because you think a parent would not do that. Well, don't compare God to parent. And God is a loving God. Well, yes, He is love and He is wrath at the same time. So yes, of course, He's He's loving. He is love. But yes, He's also wrath. So eventually everybody's gonna be saved. That is something that is really, really off, and I don't really know what else to say to that. I mean, it's not like oh no, I don't want it like that. No, no, that's not the case at all. We just know that's not the way it is, and you cannot even say. I think the average Christian would probably say the obvious, like, oh, well, I wish it was like that, but you cannot even say that, because how can you wish against God if you're a true Christian? Because that is not in the Bible. God says that, some He will tell them, I never knew you, depart from me, you workers of iniquity, workers of lawlessness. And the door is going to be shut in your face. So, I mean, yes.
How could you ever be happy for eternity if one of your children were not there? You couldn't.
That is a weak example.
He's not going to do that. He's going to wipe away all tears, and the way He's going to do it is because eventually everybody's going to be there. God is the loving parent. He loves us more than we can.
No. That is emotional female talk. That is not from the Bible. I believe this is from childhood trauma. Something must have happened in Dr. Lorraine's day childhood. This is not normal that she claims like that. As I said, God knows what he's doing. It's not very even mature of her to say something like that.
And how could he be happy for eternity?
Yeah, how she now talks on behalf of God, like seriously. What is it I wanted to say there? Yes, everybody's gonna be saved who repents, the true ones, not the ones that don't want God. So yes, those ones that have repented, that want God, they will be with Him, but not everybody.
Even one of his children were not there.
Yeah. And she's talking about universal restoration. I've heard other people call it universal salvation, but
that's okay. Universal salvation or universal restoration or universal there's something else, but it's different from universalism. Universalism means that God's going to save everybody, just like they are. Nobody has to learn anything. No, God says God will not be mocked. Whatsoever a man sows, he will reap. So everybody will reap what they sow, and that's the way they learn not to do it again. But all of God's disciplines are remedial, just like a loving parent, to turn their child back to right doing, not to destroy them. And so, but we have been so indoctrinated by these mind control centers that Satan has put all over the world that are called churches. They're mind control centers, and they only started 2,000
No,
years ago.
that is rubbish. That is rubbish. A true Christian is not controlled by anybody except God. And even God doesn't control them. God gives you free will. And according to that, you will be judged. So, with churches, yes, of course, there's a lot of corruption. We know this, and in every church there's wheat and there's tares, and every church is going to be divided. And when Jesus Christ comes, he's going to take some and leave some. So in every church, you've got good people. You've got basically safe people, and you have non-safe people. You've got the hypocrites, you've got the true ones. So again, I mean, I don't know what she's talking about there. She's just inventing her own sort of fairy tales. Looks to me like it.
Years ago, and the Pharisees put them together, the counterfeit church, to be set up as mind control centers. People go every week. Nobody went to church for the first 4,000 years of human history. Now they go every week, and they're mind controlled to believe that God's a killer God. He's not.
Well, no, I mean, no, God is not a killer God. I mean, the true Christians know who God is. Churches, they have been established already in the Bible. I mean, what was Paul doing? Where was he traveling? I mean, there's a lot about churches. He went to this church, he went to that church. They were already established back then. Yes, people maybe didn't go in the first 4,000 years to the church, but so what? That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. I mean, God has a time for everything on earth. At the time, there was time for different things. Now is the time for something else. And yes, I mean, we do have a lot of satanic establishments. And most of the pastors, they fall, whether to sexual immorality or to greed, money. But that doesn't mean that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a church. You can go to a church. God says, do not forsake assemblies together. So you assemble with Christians, whether you assemble in the homes or whether you assemble in a church. It doesn't matter. It's a building. You call it a church. I mean, the people are church, actually. So we know that, of course, as well. Ensembles, we call it ensembles, wherever you go to gatherings, Christian gatherings. That's what it is. So it's just like a lot of this is common sense. So I don't understand, like, I don't really understand this. Like, yes, of course there's corruption in the world, but that doesn't mean that that there's no churches that are of God. because when Christians meet together, they go somewhere together. They just, well, I mean, you don't have to call it a church. You can just call it a gathering place, whatever.
So this is a follow-up question of the doctrine that everybody's going to be saved. Isn't that reincarnation?
No,
You're not coming back as a pig or a bug, right, Dr. Day?
No, you just come back as yourself. It's a resurrection. The Bible talks about resurrection, doesn't talk about reincarnation. If you think that a resurrection in your own body and it's you is reincarnation,